To the Double Tap team. Hey there. I wanted to chime in on your ongoing debate around blind versus sighted perspectives. As someone who has lived on both sides of the fence, though admittedly my time as a sighted person was with only about 5% vision, that's roughly 2,400 in American terms, I feel like I can offer a grounded take on the matter. Let's get one thing straight. Seeing is not a crime. In fact, it's kind of helpful, massively so. For starters, vision speeds things up. These days, we celebrate how AI helps us work faster and smarter. Well, guess what? Even minimal vision does the same. It helps you move through the world more efficiently and independently. Secondly, no one ever asks a fully sighted person, how do you manage your life? But blind folks, we get that question all the time. That alone says a lot about the inherent challenges of navigating the world without sight. And let's be honest, would you rather be rich and healthy or poor and sick? Exactly. Same logic applies here. Vision isn't mandatory for happiness, but it sure makes a lot of things easier. Now, I'm not here to rain on anyone's parade. Blindness isn't a moral flaw, but let's not turn it into a superpower either. It's a barrier, one we learn to deal with, sometimes thrive despite, but a barrier nonetheless. The world isn't designed for blind people and probably never will be entirely. Accessibility is improving, yay, but pretending that blindness is a neutral or even advantageous state is just, well, not realistic. And context matters. In a tech-equipped city with decent infrastructure, blindness can be manageable. But if you're in a remote village in the jungle with no internet, no resources and no training, that's a whole different ballgame. Try telling someone in that situation that blindness is a gift. Let's be real here. If blindness were such a wonderful thing, blindness organizations would be offering free eye removal services and people would be lining up around the block. But they're not, because most people, deep down, know that sight is an advantage. It's called common sense. I totally get folks who are born blind and feel like it's just part of who they are. That makes sense. But that perspective is niche, not mainstream. If we want society to understand and accept us, we also need to understand where they're coming from. Am I unhappy? No. In fact, I've achieved most of the important things in my life while completely blind. But would I prefer to have full sight? Absolutely. Would I feel miserable if that never happens? No. But I'd still choose vision over blindness any day. Vision gives you safety, speed, and independence. You don't have to rely on tech or people for every little task. You move faster, farther, and with fewer logistical headaches. In short, everyone has the right to be happy, but no one's obligated to enjoy every situation. Happiness is personal, but facts are facts. Sight is a powerful tool, and pretending otherwise doesn't do anyone any favours. I'm not against blindness, I'm just pro-sightness. Hope that does not offend anyone. If so, blame ChatGPT. Warm regards, my formal sightness.
Wow.
I cannot disagree with one word there.
No, neither can I.
I'm kind of worried you're going to go on a blind pride rant, but
I don't think I need to.
Well, okay.
I feel it's kind of there. I mean, look, I've said everything about this before. I think what I'm pleased to hear is other people having their say on this issue as well, because I think oftentimes, again, I go back to this point about the one true opinion approach that you see from a lot of organizations and individuals who want to push this narrative that, you know, blind pride is the thing that will get us all through. You know, being blind, you can do anything you want. I hate that phrase. No, I can't. You know, I've said it many times. I'd be a bus driver tomorrow if I could. That would be my job, because I just always wanted to be a bus driver. Can I be a bus driver? No. So I can't do anything I want. Can I? And just don't be ridiculous.
You
be
can.
commonsensical about it. That's what I say.
Stop limiting yourself, Stephen Scott. If you want to be a bus
I think
driver,
the
you just need to work hard.
I think the passengers might disagree when they see me get my guide dog out, you know. And
we're here. We've arrived at Blind Pride Rant Corner. I just don't hear many people saying that. I don't disagree that there are people out there who say you can do absolutely anything, or that
there are organisations, Sean. That's exactly what their line is. That's their line. You know, it's like, you know, I hear it from the NFB in the States all the time. You know, blind people can do anything. That's on their marketing pretty much.
Yeah, but does it necessarily mean, are you just being too, you know, semantic there? What?
I think you just have to temper. I think you have to be realistic, because the problem is, let's be honest.
No, wait. It's trying to temper the expectation, the low expectations, the bar that's being set so low by the mainstream that we can do nothing.
Yeah,
it's almost fighting back.
You don't do that. You don't do that by then come out with something like that, saying that blind people can do everything, And then most people are going to turn around, most
Everything,
sensible people are going to turn around and say, exactly. They're going to say, no, but they can't. Because, blind people can't be a pilot. Blind people can't be a bus driver. Blind people can't be this.
Blind people can't live on their own. Blind people can't raise children.
But that's
blind
exactly,
people can't work.
It feeds into all that, doesn't it? Because if you're saying to somebody, if your advocacy is to say that blind people can do anything, which is not true because we can't, then you're just feeding into the narrative, because all you're going to do is create a debate out there that says, but blind people can do anything they want. Sure,
good, create a debate. Debate is good. Okay, let's argue about what we can do.
And is that what's happening in the mainstream? Am I seeing that debate in the mainstream?
All the time. I can't turn on the TV
that?
without the yeah, maybe not. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's the problem, right? It's just. Look. Of course, I want to raise people up, right? That and NFB in particular, I know that's what they're all about, and I know that because I've been at the NFB events. I've had the privilege of being at their convention.
God bless you, Plant Pot Man.
Absolutely, and and it was a privilege to be there actually, because it was. And I hate the word inspiring, but it was, to me it was, as somebody who was coming to terms with it all, to see all these blind people just getting on with it and taking charge of their own lives.
These blind people. Oh, dear. Okay.
What was wrong with that?
I don't know. It's just too close to the blind for my liking, but okay.
But what are they?
There
were blind people in the room. What should I call them?
You could call them just blind people.
Okay, so the blind people in the room, right? Does that work for you? So, the blind people in the room are, doing what they can. I'm sorry, I thought I was being praising of these people, right?
Blind people. I'm not sure I like that term at all.
Right. You're taking this to the nth degree here. You're trying to push me in a way that's just never going to go. So, look, I was so inspired by them because at that time I was going through it myself, and I was kind of thinking, that inferiority complex, all that stuff that becomes part of who you are as a person when you're going through sight loss, right? And then you see all these guys and girls walking around just doing what they do, and actually the line that NFB uses, and a public line they use, is live the life you want. Yeah. Which I think is brilliant. I love that. That's exactly it, right? But don't go further than that. Just don't go further. And I'm not picking on NFB. There are other organizations around the world that use the same line. There are individuals who use the same line. And look, it's been well known that blind people will stand up on a stage and say, we can do anything we want. That's not true. That's the bit I push back on. And I think temper those expectations a little bit for us as a community. And if we want to be taken seriously in the world, we have to be seen as serious.
I think you're just being far too picky there. Of course, no one takes everything at face value of I can do absolutely anything I want. Well, of course, no one can. There's limitations on whatever, be it disability, be it your life, whatever is your reality of your experience of where you are in the world or whatever it may be. I think it's just inspirational, aspirational. No?
Well, again, we can agree to disagree, because on this show you can agree to disagree.
Good.
Unless it's you, of course.
Yeah, right.
You just like to be
I'll get
prickly.
my coat. Sorry. But on the whole, I totally agree with you. Of course, I see blindness as disability is a word I have absolutely no problem with at all, because it's what it is. It is exactly what it is. Blindness is a disability. Of course, everyone, I think, the majority of people would prefer to be sighted. It makes life easier, and everyone wants that.
Now you're getting into hot water, right? Because you're saying, well, the majority of people, we don't know, right? It's all individual.
No, of course not.
It's all individual. And, it could be the case there are many people who will be listening who will say, well, I disagree, and many people will say they agree. That's fine. This is my point. There's no one true opinion on this. Yeah, but the important thing is everyone gets their say. And I think we are probably the only place on earth that gives you the chance to have that say and not be tackled to the ground for it, because you're not falling in line with whatever the blind mafia have decided we're going to be using this week as word of the week.